In Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, the medical facility on the planet of Coruscant now contained two occupants of the dark side, former Supreme Chancellor Darth Sidious and the newly anointed Sith Darth Vader. Following burns to his body inflicted on Mustafar, Vader is given new cybernetics and a respirator. Sitting up in his new suit, he becomes aware of his surroundings. Swivelling his head to his left, he asks his master for the location of Padme. Sidious reveals that Vader had killed her in his anger. Letting out all of his rage, anger and despair, Sidious can only smile. But what if Vader had in fact celebrated the death of Padme? How would Palpatine react? Well, as you're about to see, the whole timeline of Star Wars is about to change. Vader opened his eyes. Now looking through the transparent plating in his mask, he took in his surroundings. Straight ahead and to his right were medical droids and apparatus, and to his left he could feel his new master. Looking down at his new hands and legs, he recalled why he was in such a state. Padme. Her refusal to accept his new powers had driven him to duel with Obi-Wan. Now physically broken, he swiveled his head to face his master. Sidious's lips curled, asking his new apprentice whether he wanted to know the fate of Padme. Vader's new mask covered his evil smirk. Nodding to his new master, he revealed that Vader had killed her in his anger. Vader could not contain his emotions anymore. Moving his legs, which were still stiff, his fists clenched with happiness, and he let out the biggest exclamation he possibly could. Sidious was confused. He had expected his apprentice to take the news badly, but here he was celebrating. Letting out some more of his power, Sidious shielded himself as the floor rumbled and then collapsed. The medical droids were now spare parts and the equipment rendered useless. Stepping out of the mess, Vader gets used to his new limbs, while Sidious casually dusted himself off. Summoning a ship, the pair stood in silence. Vader did not hate himself. Quite the contrary, he was enjoying the pain from his unhealed burns coursing through his body. This was something he could get used to, and in time, his master would fall. After all, that was the way of the Sith. Moving into the Venator-class Star Destroyer, Sidious and Vader led to the bridge by Governor Tarkin. Looking at the construction of the Death Star, Vader grimaced. He did not like the way his master was going about the establishment of the Empire. This would only give rise to rebellion. Whilst the Jedi had disappeared for now, Vader knew they would return. Months would pass, with the Emperor sending Vader out on missions to eliminate any loose ends. Vader would normally finish these quickly, spending any spare time making repairs to his suit. There was no doubt the Emperor had weakened his suit on purpose. Vader was also tasked with training a group of fallen Jedi, which were to be known as the Inquisitors. This was something he could use to his advantage, as it was one of the only things the Emperor had let him control. Unlike Sidious, however, Vader would not be able to install a control chip, but an unwavering loyalty was most certainly possible. However, over the next several years, the Emperor began to grow suspicious of Vader. He could feel them growing further apart, just as he had felt from Plagueis, and knew he needed to be on guard. The Death Star was complete, and he would not let his apprentice remove all of his years of work. Suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door from one of his guards. Turning around, he is met by Vader, who throws another victim of his onto the floor. Sidious rubs his hands with glee. The smile, however, does not last long, as Vader ignites his blade, and Sidious needs to use his immense reflexes to deflect the attack. Sidious laughed at his apprentice. It would require more than that to eliminate him. Vader's new suit allowed him to move with enhanced agility, but his skills still paled in comparison to Sidious. Pushing a button on his wrist, Vader lured Sidious into a narrow alleyway, and saw behind his master his remaining Inquisitors emerge. Whilst the rebels had been able to eliminate several of them, Vader had secretly trained several more. Beneath his mask, Vader's mouth twitched, but with a quick blur of his cloak, Sidious somersaulted backwards and landed with ease. The Inquisitors charged forward, but this was their final mistake. Sidious used all of his force powers and turned the Inquisitors' lightsabers towards themselves, eviscerating them immediately. Sidious now leered at Vader, who stepped closer towards him. All of his hard work in training the former temple guards gone in one moment. Focusing all of his hate onto the man in front of him, Vader began to parry aggressively, forcing the Sith Lord backwards into a wall. Pushing with all of his might, Vader's blade was now inches from Sidious's face, but the Sith Lord merely smiled and launched Vader over the top of a 2-story building. Vader staggered to his feet. The power of Sidious had exceeded his expectations. He needed more, just that extra dose of fury to defeat his now former master. Taking one of his personally modified ships, Vader headed for the planet of Naboo. Although it was the homeland of the Emperor, the security was rather lax, and Vader made his way to the mausoleum of Padme Amidala, opening the tomb with the Force. The corpse was still relatively well preserved, and Vader's rage could only swell at what Padme had done. The Emperor had repeated to him on countless occasions that he should feel haunted at killing Padme, but Vader had always blamed her. She had exploited his weaknesses, and they had both paid the price. Sealing the tomb, he unexpectedly hears the call of his name. That is if a part 1 of Darth Vader said yes in Revenge of the Sith. If you didn't know, I've launched a new channel called What If Sports, which as you can guess, are going to be what if videos based around a variety of sports. If you'd like to see a part 2 of this what if, please like this video, and if you're new to this channel, subscribe for more what ifs. And as always, leave a comment on what if you'd like to see next. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.